please walk north 1 block to the bust of José Martí in front of the Cuban Club. You should now be standing in front of a bust of José Martí on the corner of Palm Avenue and Avenida República de Cuba, formerly known as 14th Street. The bust was dedicated on August the 7th, 1949, by the Caballeros de la Luz, a Cuban society in Tampa, similar to a Masonic lodge. Martí is the intellectual founder and inspiration for the Circulo Cubano de Tampa, commonly known as the Cuban Club. In one of his meetings with the Cuban patriots of Ybor City, he gathered the leaders in a great circle and said, "We are assembled in one great Circulo Cubano, a Cuban circle." The members of the Cuban National Club, organized in 1899, continued to lobby for full and complete Cuban independence, which meant the creation of a Cuban republic and the withdrawal of American troops in Cuba. These long-held dreams of Cuban independence were achieved on May 20th, 1902, when the Cuban Republic was inaugurated with Tomás Estrada Palma as their first president. With the establishment of the Cuban Republic, a 30-year goal of Cuban patriots living in exile was finally realized. Unfortunately, the racial unity that the Cuban immigrants had achieved during the War of Independence evaporated as the Cuban community of Tampa divided along racial lines. There is much speculation and controversy about how this happened, but the basic facts are that the black and white Cubans were originally members of the Cuban National Club, and that in 1900, black Cubans left the organization. At the time, the U.S. Supreme Court had decided the Plessy versus Ferguson case, and that decision was implemented by segregation becoming the norm, and Jim Crow laws were enforced. Separate but equal was the law of the land. Florida laws and customs did not look kindly on racially integrated institutions. So black Cubans separated from the Cuban National Club and formed their own institution, eventually called Sociedad La Unión Martí Maceo. A number of other political, religious, and labor issues divided Tampa's Cuban community, perhaps none more pressing than the right of the Cuban cigar workers to organize and strike. These issues threatened to tear apart the Cuban community. In 1902, the leaders of the Cuban National Club, including cigar manufacturers Rafael and Salvador Martínez Ybor, sons of Don Vicente Martínez Ybor, decided to reorganize the club as a mutual aid society, similar to what we now call HMOs. The purpose of the new institution was to bind all the Cuban residents of Tampa into a fraternal group to offer assistance and help to the sick, to supply moral and physical instruction, to furnish recreation to the members and their families, to maintain good relations with other clubs, and to cooperate in all social, beneficial, or political functions that the Cubans may celebrate. The bylaws expressly prohibited discussions of politics, religion, and labor, and limited membership to white males. The Cuban Club long ago admitted women into the organization, but the Cuban Club has maintained its non-political tradition, despite intense pressure to change this tradition after the Cuban Revolution of 1959. By developing mutual aid programs and avoiding divisive issues, the Circulo Cubano became a stable institution that provided valuable services to the cigar workers of Ybor City and West Tampa. Like the Centro Asturiano, Centro Español, the Italian Club, which had been established earlier, the Cuban Club also provided medical care and insurance benefits to its members. Without these benefits, the workers would not have any medical care. Membership grew to 500 by the end of the decade, that is to say, 1910. Eladio Paula, a cigar maker and first president of the Cuban Club from 1902 to 1906, guided the club's transition from a political club to a mutual aid society. Under his leadership, the club initiated construction of a building on this very site. On November 14, 1907, the Circulo Cubano formally inaugurated a two-story red brick clubhouse at the corner of 14th Street and 10th Avenue. Built at a cost of $14,500, the building boasted a 1,500-seat theater, a library, classrooms, and a cantina. Just as membership began to increase, a fire destroyed the building in April 1916. As a result, a more beautiful building was built 1 year later, 1917, and the new building was inaugurated in 1918.